And we're back. And today our special guest is Sarah Benoit, and she is here from JB Media Institute, where she is the co-founder and lead instructor. Sarah is an amazing marketing genius, and I just am so excited to have you here so we can talk to you about how we can better brand ourselves. Of course, I'm into social media, but I still want to hear from you about how we brand ourselves and make the best out of social media.
Well, thank you so much for having me here. I'm really excited to be here. I think the number one way that we have to start with branding is through storytelling. So a lot of times the storytelling is really what makes people feel connected. So we have to get away from thinking of quote unquote branding and really think about the stories of ourselves, the story of our customers, the story of our company. I actually worked in corporate healthcare for quite a long time before I got into this part of the industry. So I think we always have to think about things like HIPAA laws and how to protect people's privacy, as well as being careful about the information we give out when we're talking about anything related to the medical field. But I think actually for most doctors and practitioners, it's actually really important for you to continue to think from a story place, because people are going to choose you instead of choosing somebody else as a resource or as a doctor, simply because they feel a connection to you and they feel like you understand them. So I do actually think you have to step into that role of believing it is about you and it is about your story. And your story itself serves the public in a way by letting them know what's possible and where you come from and how you can actually deepen your relationship with them.
My question is, as a person trying to brand yourself, what is the number one faux pas that can happen when it comes to branding and marketing yourself in general?
Yeah, I think the number one faux pas goes with sort of everything I've already said, which is being too professional and stuffy and holding everything in, being worried that people will perceive you as a real person, which on social media is actually what they came there for. To see that you're a real person, to see that your company is built on real people. So I feel like that's the number one thing that people have to push through, is that resistance to letting their authentic self shine through in a professional way and not feel like they're giving away the farm per se or giving away all their personal information.
Right. Thank you.
Well, I want to know, for example, scrolling down Instagram, I get a million ads for these delivery kits for your skin. And you have all these ads with the people that are like, this is amazing, and they're telling their story. How, when you're selling the same product, but a different company, do you set yourself apart from a different one when you have the same ad campaign?
So I think one of the things that people struggle with is that nothing we do on social media is that original. So that's usually something that I think makes people feel sad inside. Like, I'm not that original. I'm like, there's over 7.5 billion people on the planet. None of us are that original. So we have to just sort of be realistic about that, and I think dig deeper into the details of the story. So how are problems being solved? How are questions being answered? How am I accomplishing my goals or overcoming an obstacle? And how can we dig into the more detailed version of that? I think advertising gets repetitive when we're saying the same thing over and over. It stops becoming believable. You start to feel like it's just rehearsed. So I think it's about actually taking that story to a deeper level and making it more personal and not being afraid.
Okay.
So, you know, you're an influencer. I mean, you are a marketing madam. Like, you serve it when it comes to marketing for sure. But then another part of what you do, or what I've watched you do, is influence. You've influenced how we look at social media as a community on a local level, and I'm so proud of you for doing that. How do you maintain balance with your own social media and with that sort of celebrity that you have and influence that you have in telling your story?
Yeah, I think balance is incredibly important. And what was shared earlier from the medical perspective and the perspective of your brain, I think is key to remember. And I've noticed for myself, I spend a lot of time working on social media, then using it personally as well. And I can feel when it starts to feel bad. You know, and I think it's a level of awareness that we all have to build individually, so that when we're using these tools, we use these tools in a positive way instead of allowing them to become negative.
Yeah. So what would you say to any young people who may be watching the show, or older people, because it seems like now everyone wants to be an influencer. You know, we toss that word around, it's a buzzword now. What advice would you give to anyone who's building a brand and telling their story? What would be like that foundational thing you tell them to start with?
I think the foundational thing that you have to begin with in order to establish yourself is to realize that you're building trust with people. And that is a huge responsibility. So you're going to be leading them down the road of believing in products, believing in concepts, believing in all sorts of different things. So know that you are building trust with them and that you have to deserve that trust.
Well, we're so glad to have had you here today on the Asheville View. We appreciate you. We've learned so much from you.
So much.
And we just can't wait to see you out in the world influencing us to be better people. And that's the Asheville View. We'll see you next week.